Hello, everyone. Welcome to one of our concurrent afternoon sessions. We have Judith A. Weiner. Is it Weiner? Or Weiner. Sorry about that. Judith Weiner here with her presentation on developing rapport, working with advancement professionals to support special collections. Judith is Associate Professor and Associate Director for Collections and Outreach at the Ohio State University Health Sciences Library. She oversees the library's Medical Heritage Center, which is the Special Collections Department of the library, and develops health sciences history programming for Ohio State and the greater Central Ohio community. She is the chair-elect of the History of the Health Sciences Caucus and a past chair of the Health Humanities Caucus of the Medical Library Association. Judith is also a member of the Association of Academic Health Sciences Library Assessment and Statistics Committee. Weiner has held various leadership positions at state and national levels. She frequently presents at conferences, and her current research and publication interests include library administrative issues, health, humanities, and history, ethical, legal, and privacy issues within special collections, and health science library outreach. Weiner earned a Bachelor of Arts in History at Wheeling Jesuit University, a Master of Arts in History with a concentration in Public History at Wright State University, and an MLIS from Kent State University. She joined the Health Sciences Library faculty in 2006. Please help me in welcoming Judith for her presentation. Thank you, Megan.
Hi, everybody. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me? Kind of. Maybe I'll just lean over this way a little. Oh, do I need to be closer? Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. So thank you for having me here. I think I'm really lucky to come right after our afternoon break plenary speakers, because they covered a lot of what I'm going to cover today, but from a slightly different view. I'm going to approach working with development professionals as a special collections professional, one without a development background, to kind of help you gain successful funding for your organization. So the session is going to emphasize models for archivists to inform advancement professionals about the significance of special collections and how to align your financial needs with your departments, and with the objection of both fundraising for donors and for a winning solution for you both. The goals I have here on the slide, hopefully we'll touch on all of those. I want to focus specifically on academic libraries, but these same principles can be applied to a wide variety of special collections and library settings, even those without the support of a development professional. So I don't think you have to have a team of development professionals back at your home organization to implement many of these strategies. So I'm going to start off talking a little bit about my background. Megan gave a wonderful presentation of my background, but I can tell you that in my work with public history or in my MLIS degree, even though I specialized in administration, I did not get any type of support in grant writing or in development work. And it actually has become a large part of my job. So I did, however, have some experience with development and advancement as an undergraduate student. My student job was in the development office. So I did a lot of mailings and a lot of filing, but during that time, I also worked with a lot of development officers and learned a lot about the work as a student. Often I was asked to meet with development professionals and donors as a student who was on scholarship. I had a nice scholarship to the university. So I got a little bit of an idea of the inner workings of the development world. And that has really benefited me a lot. As a project archivist, I came to OSU as a project archivist whose position was fully funded by a development gift. So I worked closely with donors, And then later, and currently as my job as an associate director, I do a lot of development work. And it's actually written in, I think it's like 15% of my salary comes from development work. Most colleges and universities have development offices and officers, and these individuals focus on fundraising and donor cultivation and stewardship for the university in a variety of ways and for a variety of causes. However, many do not support libraries or special collections specifically. Our development officer actually works for the College of Medicine, and we're sort of a side project, but we don't have a dedicated development officer. Often, libraries are thought of for in-kind gifts from donors. So we all work with donors who have collections or maybe collect rare books or manuscripts, but often we're not thought of for financial gifts, although, and we all know the gifts we work on that come into the office do require financial support. We suffer also in a university from not having an alumni. Nobody graduates from the university libraries. Nobody is an alumni of your archival program, but we can still make these connections. Many professionals are not told to think about costs, and I'm talking about special collections professionals, as we think of what we do as priceless and not equated to money. And often people like to shy away from this, but a real need does exist to fund our archives. Engaging development professionals can be challenging, and many are not aware of the special collections or what we do, why it can attract donations, or even why donors may need to exist for our area. Development officers often need to be made aware of special collections, our work, and the cost associated with our materials. Some approaches could include providing tours to development officers, inviting development staff to events, attending donor-sponsored events, discussing materials as well as financial needs, and bringing potential donors to their attention. You can highlight anniversaries, significant dates, and events, and that can spark interest. I will say that although they may not be aware of development officers may not be aware of special collections, they're always looking for reasons to contact donors. So if you can make them aware of anniversaries or special materials related to their area, they will want to use that and develop a working relationship through these sort of special occasions. We need to collaborate and coordinate with potential donors, and this is very essential because donors may also be contacted by other areas, and the development office often coordinates this. So if I know of somebody who I think would be a good donor at OSU, it's particularly important I bring that to a development officer because they may be in line or already be asked for other gifts. So there's a coordination involved, so it doesn't seem unprofessional, or you may lose a donor if they're getting too many asks at one time. One challenge is that we often do not think of our own financial needs. I find that many of my librarian colleagues are challenged by thinking in terms of finances or what could be done with financial support by more than just providing staffing. When I speak to my colleagues, they often say we could use more people, and we certainly can use more people. And there are opportunities to fund chairs, but often that doesn't happen. And we need to look for other funding opportunities that could free up your budget in some other areas to allow for your standard budget to stretch further. For example, if you attract donors to support digitization or preservation services, internship stipends, scholarship, research stipends, programs, and others, including lectures and exhibits, if you don't have to take that money out of your budget, you may be able to afford additional projects, staff, or student support. Also, discussing development goals with development officers can help you align with their goals or work, and then promote your collections or services through their programs. We recently onboarded a new director for our library, and she was not familiar with working with development officers at all. And she found her biggest challenge came with a lot of the common fundraising terms. Just as we speak in our own language, so do development professionals. So I've highlighted here on the slide some things that we've run into a lot in terms of development-focused fundraising terms. And I know our previous speakers also talked about some of these. So I just want to highlight, when I say development, I also mean advancement. It could also be the fundraising office. They're called different things at different universities, different organizations, but they manage relationships to encourage philanthropy at their core. We talked about annual fund or annual giving. It's a campaign that seeks regular support for an organization's ongoing operational costs. So unlike a building, this is looking for people who give a steady stream of funding into the university or into your special collections. A call to action, I think that was distributed earlier for the building, the organization, and it's a call to action for something specific. Donate now, and they try to make it sound very urgent. A capital campaign is usually a larger fundraising amount, such as the preservation of the mural that focuses on one goal. And a challenge grant can be with challenge goal can be with a grant. So we have received grants that have a matching requirement, and we've matched that through development because you cannot always find that money in your own budget or through another grant. So it often encourages people to give. If they realize they give $100, $100 will be matched through a granting agency. It really motivates. Current use funds, also called development funds at Ohio State. These are current use funds. So if somebody donates $1,000, that's $1,000 that you have to spend. This is opposed to an endowment fund, which you only spend the interest. It's like a bank account, and you only spend the interest. The principal is kept intact. Something important about about endowment accounts is how they're written. Sometimes the funding, the interest, if you don't spend it by the end of the year, goes back into the principal. So it's essential that you spend it every year. And sometimes you can build up for a larger project. It all depends on how it's funded. A fundraising appeal is a request to supporters to contribute for a specific cause. And that's different than stewardship, which is just keeping in touch with people through newsletters, events, correspondence. And these are your supporters. Some people call them their library friends. They're not always donors, but they're people that support your archive or your special collections unit and are really advocates for you. Now, one thing I have found particularly challenging is that a lot of times staff aren't comfortable with engaging and are actually kind of negative about the need to fundraise. It seems like something that they don't want to talk about. It's sort of that my materials are valuable in and of themselves. They might be very uncomfortable. There might be a belief that their collections can't be monetized. And it's true in many ways, of course, but we do need to pay our bills, and fundraising is essential to our programs and the expansion of our programs and services. I found that getting buy-in starts with goal setting and program expansion, and that includes transparency and budget setting. We often think of grants, and people are comfortable quite often to apply for grants, but not to put it's the same skills, that same proposals that can be placed into a fundraising proposal that we put into a grant proposal. Another element is that in general, we're a community of extreme introverts. So extroverting, donor galas, one-on-one dinners doesn't come easy to many of us. So we can be uncomfortable speaking to donors, socializing, and then asking for money. And that's why I love that we have development people like Jordan who just love to ask for money. That's their job, and I don't have to do that, just like the Dean said previously. I can work on the relationship. I can talk about the collections. I can provide that continuity. However, I don't have to ask for money. I may have helped develop the proposal, but I can tell you it doesn't come easy for me, and I've really never had to ask. but people want me to talk all day about why my collections are valuable or our collections are valuable. And that is something that comes very easily to me. So it's in your best interest to become friends with your development staff. And then staff need to know what they are expected to do and not expected to do. Just as they might feel comfort knowing there's somebody that can ask for money on their behalf, they're also not expected and actually shouldn't try to contact people on their own. We've had some experience with that, so it's good to set parameters around what staff are being expected to do or asked to do and what they're not. So how do we put a price on the price list? I know we feel that our collections and our work is beyond measure, but we need to develop estimates to help support fundraising and donor goals. And many of us already do this for grants. You may be asked to develop proposals or sell sheets to make development officers aware of your needs. And sell sheets are like the proposals that were handed out. It's a very quick and easy, this is what we do, here's where our needs are. This was for the mural renovation, but it could be for collections, it could be for equipment. And it also helps the other development staff members across campus. So OSU is a huge machine. We have a development contact, but he doesn't cover the entire campus. But sell sheets are handed out to all development staff so they know, hey, if I'm talking to somebody in nursing and they have a great collection and they want to fund a scholarship in nursing history, oh, there's the Medical Heritage Center. So those sell sheets are a quick way to tell development staff about your needs. And it gives you a means to provide a budget. So one thing I found that was difficult to find was, well, how do I put a price on what I do? What we have done for our sell sheets and our proposals is come up with an estimate for archives that includes labor, materials, preservation, and access. And our amount's around $1,000 per linear foot. So that has been helpful. I've benchmarked that across what other libraries are saying their cost per linear foot is, and around $1,000 seems right. Others who minimally process, it may be lower because minimal processing, I think, takes around 2 hours per linear foot. But if you're doing more extensive processing, which we have to do in a health sciences collection due to HIPAA regulations, it would take us double as much. So you'd want to calculate that for your own costs, but make sure you're adding everything into it when you're giving people an idea of how much supporting collection, an archival collection would be. Now, this also doesn't include processing of continuing additions, technology transfer fees, administrative costs, or ongoing preservation, access, or storage costs. So you might want to look to a development fund, a one-time fund to support collection or equipment needs. But other collections that are large may need ongoing funds and supports like you might get from an endowment. So how do you find these development and endowment donors? Development, as was shared earlier, does have databases that can help with donor identification. You may be able to get access to that directly with training. I have direct access to OSU's development system, and they do offer that to many staff. So you can work with your development officer, but you also may want to see if you can get access on your own to look at potential donors. You can also add in information if somebody has donated gifts in kind. I know at OSU, donors often want to know what the cash value is for their gift in kind donation because it counts towards their football tickets, which is a huge thing. I don't, for legal reasons, I can't provide a donor amount, but I can lead them to where they might get that assessment and add it into the development system. Development can also do research on prospects that you have identified. And the amount of information they have is kind of scary sometimes, actually. I found that when I was working as a student and filing materials. At that time, it was paper, but I could tell they knew people's salary pretty well. They knew their giving capacity. They knew how many children they had. So, I mean, there's quite a bit of information out there, probably on all of us, but specifically on donors. So when Jordan said they would know who has the giving potential, they really do from the amount of data that they have in their databases. And donors can come from a variety of sources. Material donors also are interested in knowing about the financial impact of their gift on the archive. I found it to be a very easy discussion about to transition from what will happen to these materials next to discussing the type of funding that we need to support archival processing. Sometimes we haven't been able to accept a gift unless financially there's a way to support it as well. So we're upfront about that. We also, in addition to people who donate, we also have records of people who attend our programs, receive our mailings. University alumni groups also frequently donate to special collections and libraries. Former volunteers and staff members are also people that might be interested in making donations. Other sources can actually come from unused development funds in other areas, and this has been an area of success for us. I've had discussions with deans in other areas, and I find that they have development funds that they have no way to spend. Maybe a previous dean accepted a history-focused grant or a development account or endowment, and they can't use it. They don't have the history programming and nursing anymore, but they've been able to transfer that to the library. So in another instance, it was to support students in a lounge that no longer existed in the College of Medicine. We were able to support a meditation room in our library using those same funds. So that's been very easy because they already exist. They're not being spent. There is a lot of pressure to spend the funds that you get because you want to be a good steward of the gift. So we've been able to work with those departments to use some of their development funds. We've also worked with development professionals to create fund descriptions with maximum flexibility. So Sarah, in our last session, talked about all the things you might want to include, but other things that maybe you want to consider is, where is this program going in the future? Might this need not exist? And see how flexible your donor is in just making it a gift to the library in general. If, for example, we are working on a EdTech incubator now, which is a large makerspace, we don't know if people will care about 3D printers in 5 years. They do now. So we have an innovation and technology fund that we can use for other areas in the library, so we don't get talked into a corner. And related to that is be aware of unusable gifts. They can include materials that also can mean long-term spending requirements that do not meet your goals and priorities or include stipulations you cannot make. One of the best examples of this was a person who wanted to renovate our study rooms, but insisted that everything had to be OSU Buckeyes themed. And our director would not agree to that because we had a very different aesthetic. So that was an example of funding we couldn't accept. From the gift in kind world, I would say I have a set of brass monkeys that I accepted early in my career, thinking more was going to come, and it never did. We never got anything more than brass monkeys that have nothing to do with our collection, but I felt compelled and pressured to accept. So I've been talking about generalities, but I wanted to focus on a case study. Sorry, dry throat. So this is the Medical Heritage Center. This is where I was first hired, and I still oversee this area to process a collection. The Medical Heritage Center is part of the OSU Health Sciences Library. It was founded in 1997, actually as a development gift from the Columbus Medical Association Foundation. That year, the foundation and the association turned 100 years. They had a bunch of materials that they, excuse me, pulled out of barns and basements and attics. This probably sounds familiar, but did not have a place to house it. That same year, the library was renovating, and they had renovations funding for the first four floors, but nothing to finish off the 5th floor. So that became the foundation's opportunity to fund the Medical Heritage Center and turn it into a special collections area. We have two temperature and humidity controlled collection areas, a large meeting room, study space, and exhibit areas. The problem was we got this large gift. We could call it a development gift or a grant gift, but we had no way of care and feeding moving forward. So what my predecessor agreed to was that we would become completely self-supporting through development gifts within 5 to 10 years. The library only had several small endowments to support this area. So this is what we did to keep the Medical Heritage Center continuing, and we've celebrated recently our 25th anniversary. So we've been fairly successful. So some collaborations we have done with development to support the Medical Heritage Center included giving tours to development officers in our organization and showing them where past support has made a difference. There is a large turnover in development staff. I have been with the library for 23 years and have worked with 7 different development officers that have been assigned to the library. So I feel like I'm doing onboarding continuously, not only with our direct development officer, but with development staff. So every year I try to give a tour to interested development staff members. And it's a tour that's educating them about what special collections is, but it's also showing them opportunities, why people might be interested in our materials, and also how we could use funding. And as I mentioned, although we do not have alumni, we have many people who have memories of the library or the university, and we get to be a vehicle for support for their wish lists of giving a fuller gift that would benefit a large amount of students. So there are a number of university donors that are not interested whatsoever in college scholarships. I worked with a donor once who said he worked his way through medical school, university and medical school, and he didn't feel scholarships were needed. But he did understand the value of the library, that in general, people don't give gifts to the library, and he wanted to benefit a lot of students at once, sort of the Andrew Carnegie model of philanthropy. So there are people who specifically are interested in library donations where they may not be interested anywhere else. We've also served as host sites for donor and alumni events during donor weekends, alumni weekends, new student weekends, any opportunities we can get to invite people into the library and into our special collection areas. We try to do that. We collaborate with donations to materials when they're giving to other areas. So a donor may mention, hey, I have rare books that I collect. They may be giving to a scholarship, but then also give their materials. And it can be a start of a long-lasting relationship throughout years. We do attend donor visits and meetings with development officers. It can be just to answer questions about the archive, or if somebody's interested in the history of a certain field, will be invited to go along and speak with the donor about that, because the development officer obviously doesn't have that background. We collaborate with other departments and endowments on endowment and development gifts. Currently, we have endowment accounts that we share with the Department of History, Nursing, and the College of Medicine, and those are for lectures and programming. And we also work with the community and professional organizations outside of OSU. So we work with foundations for donors. They provide grants, but we also work with their donors. These collaborations have enabled us to establish relationships that have resulted in the success of fundraising. And we've been able to expand this success to the rest of the library. So at first, I was focusing on making the Medical Heritage Center independent through philanthropy, but now we have moved on to other areas of the library as service needs have existed. We find that there's a lot of, just like the Medical Heritage Center founding, there's a lot of seed money to start new initiatives, but it's really hard to get that continual funding for the care and feeding of those programs. So we are looking largely to philanthropy for that. Currently, we have 9 development accounts and 10 endowments. supporting various areas of the Medical Heritage Center and the library. They support collections, lecture events, digitization, preservation, research and travel stipends, staff professional development, and equipment, among other priorities. We're not fully financially independent yet. We do rely on salary support from the general library budget, but all of the rest of our programs, preservation support, and special collection material acquisitions are fully covered by development or endowment support. We've developed a personalized gratitude program. We handwrite thank you notes for gifts of all sizes. We have frequent contact schedule, and we have a regular meeting with our development staff. This fall, our EdTake Incubator was a featured fund for the annual OSU Day of Giving. So the partnership with development has paid off for larger exposure to the rest of the university. Our library website has a giving page with direct links added to our website with descriptions and goals of each fund. People can click directly from that to the OSU giving site and enter their credit card. Our next steps are to add testimonials and short videos to our website. It's currently undergoing a renovation of its own, but once that's done, we'll have the capacity to add videos and testimonials. And we always recognize our donors whenever development funding is used. And we put this in our newsletter, any type of promotion that we do, we target, whether it's just the general fund that we use to thank people for their support, or if it's a specific person, we'll focus on that donor in particular. And on our newsletter, we always list people who have given both financially and materials every quarter. During this session, I emphasized the methods for archivists to use to inform advancement professionals about the significance of special collections and how to align their financial needs of their departments and objectives with both fundraisers and donors. What I hope is that you take from this session that development professionals within your organization can be huge advocates for your collection and help you meet fundraising goals. These relationships can take some time to get established, but are well worth it. I hope you've gained some better ways to understand development professionals, as well as some ideas for your staff about how donor support can help transform your program goals and secure your future growth. These are some resources and works cited that I've used for the presentation. I want to highlight the first link here in particular. Aladdin is the Academic Library Advancement and Development Network. This organization is dedicated just to library advancement. They hold monthly virtual meetups. They do biannual conferences, and they recently started an open access journal dedicated to fundraising in libraries. As I said, it's really unusual for a library to have a dedicated development officer or development staff. So I find that Aladdin is incredibly helpful for me, but also for our development staff. I can send them to a meetup or a conference or send articles to them, and it's been really helpful because they're just focused on library development. I highlighted a couple terms that I think are the most important. However, there are a couple dictionaries for fundraising listed here. So if your development officer is sending you something and you don't know what they are saying, this is an easy place to look up some more information about terms and what they mean. The Council for Advancement and Support of Education is an organization that is set up for development officers. So it has extensive resources for advancement professionals and for work, and they provide extensive professional development on their website. They also have conferences, but they have a lot of information there. And if you don't have dedicated professional development support, that's a great place to go to learn best practices. And then finally, the Association of Advancement Service Professionals is another organization with a wide array of resources, including guides, workshops, and a podcast I really love that helps explore different areas of advancement. I've sent it to staff when they've had questions about ethics, how to, there's just a wide variety of topics covered on their podcast. So I highly recommend it. You can scan the QR code. It will take you to the Medical Heritage Center website, and you can click on our giving page so that you can get more information or just see what we have done. We found that very few libraries had a broad giving webpage, so you can see how we've set that up for our various development accounts and opportunities to give. And that is my email address if you have any questions afterwards. But are there any questions from the presentation today? Well, that's all that I have. Thank you for being such a kind audience.